Welcome everyone to our calendar meeting. I am now calling our meeting to order. And I am going to read our information here. Okay. Thank you for coming to the District 15 Community Education Council tonight. We appreciate your time and are glad you could join us. For those of you who are new to CEC meetings, there are 32 CECs throughout the city, plus 4 citywide councils. Each CEC represents a community school district, and each is made up of 11 volunteer members, 9 of whom are elected by PTA leaders in the district. The remaining members are appointed by Brooklyn Borough President. CEC15 is a state-mandated public body responsible for ensuring that public school parents and the public have input in educational decisions that are made at the school district level. Our council reviews education policies and advocates for high-quality education that benefit all of our District 15 public elementary and middle school students. There are 35 elementary and middle schools in District 15. CEC members serve in an advisory role on education matters to the district superintendent, the chancellor of the Department of Education, and elected officials. We approve district school zoning lines submitted by the Department of Education. We evaluate our district superintendent. We review the district's educational programs, and we support school leadership teams. We also submit recommendations for the School Construction Authority's annual capital plan. In conjunction with the DOE, we hold joint public hearings on proposals affecting schools in our district. Currently, we are working with the DOE to collaboratively and effectively rezone 7 schools in Subzone 3. We actively seek input and feedback from the public and encourage you to visit our website, cecd15.org. Take a look at our Facebook page and write to us about any issues you may want to address or learn about. All of our names and contact info are available on our website.
Tia, could you, before you turn it over to Katia, could you just go back and we need to turn it over to the interpreters to announce that they're here for translation. Anybody who's just joining us, could you please sign the attendance sheet that is linked in the chat? Interpreters, I'm going to turn it over to you to announce yourselves. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. The following message is going to be in Spanish, offering interpretation services. Buenas noches a todos, gracias por estar acá. Si desea servicios de interpretación en español, por favor, marque desde su teléfono al 347-966-4114 e ingrese el número de conferencia 488-837-227 numeral. Le repito, para servicios de interpretación en español, marque desde su teléfono al 347-966-4114 e ingrese el número de conferencia 488-837-227 numeral. Gracias. Thank you.
Could you also just remind them to sign the attendance sheet that is linked in the chat?
Para todos los participantes, por favor recuerden firmar la hoja de asistencias. El enlace pueden encontrarlo en la casilla de diálogo o en el chat.
Thank you so much. Okay, back to you, Tia, for the roll call.
All right. Councilmember Camille Casaretti is absent. Councilmember Antonia Ferraro.
Here.
Tia Shellstead is here. Bess Abrams.
Here.
Kimberly Scott.
Here.
Katia Rembert,
Present.
Claudia Lechuga,
Present.
Mark Bizzard, Yvonne Banda,
Present.
Crystal Kaysen, is not here. And do I actually ask if,
Superintendent Skop. Yep.
oh, Superintendent Skop.
Present.
Now just turn it over to Bess for the minutes.
I'm turning over to you, Bess, now for the minutes.
Hi, so because of the glitch with the emails, I did not receive the minutes, so we're going to have to postpone it to the next meeting.
Ah, okay.
I am out of the loop.
All right.
Okay. Sorry about that, everybody.
Okay. So then we will move on to the teleconference protocol. Katia?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Teleconference Protocol. Due to COVID-19 health crisis, CEC15 will be practicing social distancing. We will be conducting meetings through teleconferencing until further notice. Tonight's calendar meeting will include a public comment period so that we may allow for additional feedback from our school communities. The general rules of engagement. For your own privacy, we ask that you turn off your camera and please use audio only. Please also sign into the Google Doc link in the chat. When you comment, please respect the privacy of others. Please do not include children's names or staff. The public comment period is meant for comments, but as it is customary, CEC15 wants to hear your comments and concerns and help you get them addressed as needed. Answers cannot be given in session. We will provide them in our weekly e-blast or in upcoming meetings. Please sign up for CEC emails at cec15@schools.nyc.gov. Public comments. If you want to comment, please identify yourself by using the raise hand feature. Please include your question and contact information in the chat. If you are calling in, press *9 to comment. We will call on you by the last 4 digits of your phone number. Speakers will be called on one at a time and will be allowed 1 minute each for your comment. Speakers will be prioritized by the sign-in sheet via the chat or by emailing cec15@schools.nyc.gov prior to the meeting. We will hear as many speakers as time allows. If you prefer not to speak but would like to submit a question or a comment, it is possible that not every question will be given time, so the best way to get your question answered is to always write to the CEC. And please remember to sign in using the chat. Antonia, back to you.
Thank you so much, guys. Sorry, I was muted. So, as you know, I will be giving the president's report as our president, Camille Casaretti, has had a COVID-related death in her extended family. Our thoughts are with Camille and her family, as they are with all those impacted by the virus. I think I speak for everyone when I say 2021 cannot come soon enough. So tonight I have the privilege of welcoming you all to CEC15's last calendar meeting of 2020 on this 5th night of Hanukkah. I personally am very optimistic about 2021 because there is light at the end of the tunnel, especially if we work together to solve problems. The holiday season is always the time to give gifts, but it is also the time to give love and cooperation. And this year, it is more important than ever to find ways to support the broader community and the common good. This weekend, I put on my mask and I volunteered with PS 124 and the organization Amanda Donates, which sets up a monthly food pantry for the community on 13th Street. PS 124 and Amanda Donates gave out hundreds of loaves of bread milk, cereal, and canned goods to a line that stretched down the block. My 11th grade son volunteered with me. It was a great hands-on, enriching experience that can give students a sense of purpose and empowerment at a time when they may feel like everything is out of control. The next food pantry at PS 124 will be on January 16th from 9 to 11 a.m. Volunteers are encouraged to come early to help set up at about 8:15 or 8:30. Additionally, speaking of the common good, Monday was the 8th and final installment of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion series. The topic was giving versus gaining, school lotteries and their impact on education. Camille worked very hard to present and organize these programs, so congratulations to her on a job well done. The series will now be included on the Parent University portal. I know Camille was very honored to hear that her work would be available for more parents to access. So please check out parentu.schools.nyc. We will post the exact link when we have it. Additionally, CEC15 will be forming various ad hoc committees that parents from the district can join. Committees may take up issues such as mayoral control, PTA reform, and the whole child focus. So stay tuned for more information on those, or email us with a suggestion of your own. And we are still seeking applicants for our MLL parent representative. Please email cec15@schools.nyc.gov for an application. To qualify, a parent or guardian must have a child enrolled in one of the District 15 public schools under the superintendency of Anita Skop, and must have a child with an ELL status or have had ELL status within the last 2 years. Some updates. Please note our upcoming meetings. Thursday, January 7th at 6:30 p.m. We are holding a special session where we will vote on the SCA priority list. Tuesday, January 12th at 6:30, we will hold our business meeting where we will meet with District 15's President's Council, who is doing big things to support our community schools, from forming a district-wide PTA to collecting and distributing cleaned devices to students in need. Tuesday, January 26th at 6:30, we will hold our calendar meeting with the Office of District Planning again on the rezoning. There are now virtual elementary admissions events where you can learn about 3K, pre-K, and kindergarten admissions. I will put the link to register in the chat. And the kindergarten application period opened on Thursday, December 10th. So children born in 2016 can apply to kindergarten for the 2021-22 school year. The application deadline is Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. Families can apply to kindergarten in 2 ways: online at My Schools and over the phone by calling 718-935-2009. I will put all of that in the chat as well. So tonight's agenda will include our superintendent's report and an update from the Office of District Planning and the PAR team. I want to acknowledge the tremendous work of our superintendent, ODP, and the PAR team, who didn't lose sight of our district's broader goals of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Even in the face of an unprecedented pandemic and economic crisis, they found ways to continue to plow ahead with this work. And I want to give all our principals and teachers an extra special year-end thank you. For many, this was the hardest year of their careers. So here's to you, and here's to 2021. Thank you. And now I will turn it over to Superintendent Skop.
Thank you, everybody. I am delighted to be here to speak with you. I have good news and some concerns, and I'm going to share them with you. I will be brief because I want to make sure we have enough time to discuss the PAR process, and I will come back to you to talk about that process when we get to it. So if I can ask, Zaida, would you please move the slide? So we will be discussing very briefly these items. The schools that are on full-time remote due to COVID, the mayoral initiative on 5 days a week in-person learning, the middle school application process, our equity team meetings and equity congress, the students who were a part of the debate at Brooklyn North, and then of course, questions and comments. Next slide, please. So first, the news of concern. We have 4 elementary schools that have switched to fully remote and will be returning after the holidays because of COVID cases. So these are members of the staff or members of families, and I don't have any information on that, but the schools are fine. They are closed for 14 days of quarantine. They are PS 58, PS 146, PS 169, and PS 321. All of the schools, the city's middle school and high schools are still fully remote, and no date has been announced for the return to blended learning as of yet. The mayoral initiative on 5 days a week in-person learning. As you may have heard, there is a mayoral expectation that every school will provide an opportunity for at least some of its blended learning students to attend school 5 days a week. Most of our schools are providing this opportunity. They are looking specifically at their 12 to 1-to-1 students. They are looking specifically at their students in need and also our early childhood, because we know it is more difficult for them to learn remotely. And so we are providing those options where we can. Substitute teachers will be provided from the central office to support this effort. And we have already had one school where some teachers have shown up, and that is 516. The DOE is looking carefully at the space parameters and in-person teachers as per the remote accommodation list. So the expectation is that schools that can provide 5 days a week will provide 5 days a week within line for CDC social distancing based on the room requirements and to ensure that the teachers are available to teach in person. One of the notable exceptions is 15K 039 or PS 39, whose structure, whose physical plant is so unusual because it was originally designed as a hospital, that it does not have real halls, and it has railroad structured classrooms where you go from one classroom directly into another classroom. That and the fact that it has approximately 75% in-person blended population have made this opportunity for 5 days impossible at that school. You should also know that District 15 has the largest number of students in person in the entire city. We have astonishing numbers. Most of our schools are over 50%. Some of them are over 70%. Next slide, please. Middle school updates and expectations. Letters have gone out to families to remind them to set up their accounts. The middle school application process has not opened as yet. And we are asking that if you have a concern, please reach out to your parent coordinator or guidance counselor, and they will help you support this effort. The ladies in my office, Maggie, Gina, and Brenda, are collecting the dates for our virtual tours so that we can create a district-wide calendar, and we will post it on the D15 website shortly. It's almost done. Every school will create a video tour so that we can post that link as well. Schools that need help in making the video can reach out to the BCO and we will get you help. We are asking that translation be made available for your virtual tours. We are asking all schools to provide translation so that all families can understand what they are seeing and understand what the schools offer. Lastly, we are asking schools to share their videos with our elementary schools so they can arrange showings to all the 5th grade classes. This is in line with our previous concept of going school to school last year and encouraging the kids to ask questions at their school or bringing our kids to the schools to visit. So we're very excited about this. Next slide, please. I want to take a few minutes to talk about our Equity Congress and our equity teams, because I want to make sure that in line with the focus that we have in District 15, that you understand that these are available to you at every school. Our Equity Congress meets monthly, usually the 2nd week in the month, and representatives from every school's equity team are welcome to attend. They're expected to attend. The discussions and sharing are heartfelt and rich and help members of our community to see the various perspectives in expanding equity across the district. Like our CEC and their wonderful, wonderful workshop series, this is about building on the needs of your school and looking deeply at the equity issues at every school. Every school has to have an equity team. It is one of the few things that I, as superintendent, have mandated. This team is composed of parents, teachers, administrators, school staff. And the idea is to go deep and look at your school and look at its needs, looking at culturally responsive curriculum, looking at culturally responsive resources, looking at disproportionality in behavior issues, looking at instructional practices. Whatever your school feels they need to look at is what the equity team should be part of. And we come together monthly as an equity Congress to bring those issues to the fore and to talk about how we can learn from what other schools are doing and to develop best practices. I have to give a shout out to the ladies, Maggie and Gina, who run the Equity Congress. We had a meeting last night, and I have to say it was spectacular. There was a really deep discussion, and it was wonderful. Next slide, please. 2 of our schools participated in a debate at in District 14, PS50, that ran it for the BCO. They are PS1 and PS131, and the kids represented well. It was their first debate. It was 5th graders, and it was very exciting. I saw it, and I am proud of all of our children. Next slide, please. I'll save that slide for questions and comments. I just want to go to the last slide. I want to wish you all a very, very special, safe, healthy holiday season as we go forward and celebrate what I used to call as a teacher our season of light. We light the way in these dark months, and in this dark time, you are all lights in that you support so many others, and we are grateful for you. So happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, happy Kwanzaa, happy Diwali, and all good things in the new year. And with that, I'll go to questions and comments.
Okay, thank you, Anita. Let's see, Katia, do you want to run the comments, just going down the roll call?
Well, it's first public comments, right? So we're gonna
Okay.
get public
yes,
comments first.
yes.
So yes, I'll run that section. We have 10 minutes for it. So
Yes.
I'll start that now, and I'm looking So if you do have a comment, please use the raise hand feature and I will call on you, or if you are calling in, it's *9 and I'll call on you by the last 4 digits of your phone number.
Are we doing the public or council members?
We're doing public first.
Oh, okay.
I thought we typically do council first.
On
Not
the
per the
agenda,
agenda.
it says public.
That's
So
new.
that's
Okay, sure, that's fine.
here.
So Helene, did you want to come forward with your question?
She was,
Okay, I'll come back to her. Alexa, I see your hand raised.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Superintendent Scott, for your report. I was curious about two things. The report on such high attendance in the district. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that, if we see that evenly spread. I've heard more the northern part of the district is where the really the higher attendance rates are for in-person learning. So I was just curious to learn more about that. And also in terms of the equity teams and the schools, is there, will the schools be kind of posting what their action plans will be and what they're striving for in ways that others can access? And will there be some kind of mechanism to kind of pool all those learnings from across the district to see, you know, kind of what the trends are and what folks are working on?
Okay, so let me start with the attendance and then I'll transition to the equity team. So first of all, Alexa, you're right. The highest levels of attendance are predominantly in the northern end of the district, although even in Sunset Park and other areas, we do have over 50% in-person learning in many of our schools. So it really is remarkable. We have some schools that do not have strong in-person learning, and they are often in Sunset Park and to some extent in Red Hook. But what we've discovered is that there is a real fear factor in certain areas, and especially as you know, as has been well publicized, that there is a higher rate of infection in children of color and families of color, and so people are very nervous about this, maybe more so in certain areas than other. Poverty has a real impact on the ability to get health care and the quality of the health care. And so all of these things I know have an impact. So the answer to your question in one word is yes, we are seeing it more in the northern end. In terms of the work of the equity teams, that is something that we are doing with our Congress. They come together and they discuss their foci and what they're doing. And it is very school specific. And the goal of this is to meet the needs of the individual schools. So we certainly collect information, but we have never put it out as a public document. I can talk to the principals and the schools and see how they feel about that, but I don't want schools to feel limited in any way, and I don't want conversations to be stifled in any way. So it's something we can talk about. What we haven't done as yet.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Ms. McKnight. You can unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Nita. How are you? Hi,
Good,
everyone
honey.
on the panel. Thank you for having us in this discussion. I want to know, how are we doing on the devices for the children whom are working remotely and have been from the very beginning of when we went out? When did we go out? Like April or May or something like that?
March, yeah, last March.
And they still don't have devices. And I think that really should be a priority.
Vanessa, I have very good news about that.
Oh, thank
All
you,
of our-
Jesus.
all of our schools have gotten massive deliveries of devices, and the principals have gone out of their way to ensure that the kids are getting them. And we're
Including
very
the displaced
excited,
children?
including displaced children, including the shelter children. The issue in the shelters is more complicated.
Good job. Thank you so much. That was my big
You're
concern.
welcome. I know how much you care about this. The issue in
Yeah,
the
I mean,
shelter,
because it's hard, like you said, especially the little ones, and then they don't have no device. The bigger kids can kind of get through stuff, better, but they need their stuff because they're just starting with school. And some of them, it's their first year actually going to school, and they never got to the school because parents made the choice to keep them home. But having the devices, since we have great teachers in our district, it really helps the child and the teacher. So
that's the good news, is that we have gotten in hundreds of devices, and they have been distributed. And for the most part now, this is not just here, it's across Brooklyn North and pretty much across the city. We waited and waited, and they came through as we were told they would. In some of the shelters, because they do not have Wi-Fi, the kids' devices work, but it's not as clean as it would be in a place that did. The devices come with Wi-Fi. So it isn't a question of not having the Wi-Fi, but I've also been told in a couple of places that because of the way it's set up in the shelters, that it is sometimes harder. So we're working individually, and I'm working with the gentleman who's in charge of students in temporary housing to make sure that every kid has a device and that it works.
okay. And we're working on trying to see if we can get them some form of Wi-Fi, like just an antenna. I know that it can be done. I don't know what the cost is. I don't know.
It comes on the device. That's not.
No, I understand that part, but you said it's not as clear or whatever, so it may be glitches because it doesn't have the extra power. I don't think we should stop there. I think we should try to get an antenna.
Absolutely. They're
or something. That's what I'm saying. Are we still going to the next
So
step
what
now
they're
that we've got that?
absolutely. What we're trying to do, and they're in the process of doing it, and this is a citywide effort, is to install Wi-Fi at all of the shelters. So
Right.
that would solve the problem, but that's time consuming. But we have a lot of the children in our shelters are very
That's time consuming, but education, and it's not directed at you. Education is important. I don't even see why we should be haggling about this particular issue, because our goal is to have our children educated. It is not their fault. It's certainly not the teacher's fault that we have a pandemic. But in the meantime, there are resources, and we know that, and we just have to continue to push and very hard. The education of these kids having these meetings won't mean anything if by the time the kids go back to school. We don't know. It was out, they were in. So it to me, it's not like just brush. Oh well, So it's we've been saying, and that's why we're here now. We've been saying for years the same thing over and oh well, we can. Yes, we can. We can. When they want to do something, they do it. This is important.
And we're pushing for it, Vanessa. Believe me, we're pushing for everything for our kids.
Thank you. We have time for one more question that's coming from, or one more comment from Molly.
Thanks, Katia. Thank you, Anita, so much for being here tonight. I just wanted to go back to the slide where it says that right now nearly all of our schools are providing 5-day in-person learning. And we have the largest number of in-person students in the city. Those two things just seem kind of incongruous to me, just in terms of our own school's experience. We have parents clamoring for 5 days, but our principal has said that there's not the space, there's not the staff for that. So if you could go into that in a little more detail,
Sure.
I found it really confusing.
So you know that this is the mayor's initiative, and you know that this has not happened as yet at all of our schools. This is a very, very recent initiative. Some of our schools were already doing 5 days of instruction. There are a lot of things that impact how many kids are getting that and how many schools are getting that. So it depends on the school, its physical plant, the number of teachers who are remotely accommodated. And all the schools, however, have been asked to provide 5-day support for some of the kids in the school. And so, for example, our pre-K, the Little Brooklyn pre-K has 5-day-a-week pre-K, the sites under Little Brooklyn. 676 is going to open as of January 4th, 5-day-a-week for all students. PS 94 is opening 5-day-a-week for all students. But there are caveats to that. If you have a school, such as, let me give you an example of PS 29. I don't know what school your child goes to, but if your child goes to a school where 75 to 80% of the children are blended learning, there is not the physical space to bring everybody in 5 days a week because you could not social distance in those cases. So not everybody will be coming in. What we're looking at is those kids who are the neediest kids initially, which are students in 12 to 1-to-1 classes, which are students in like an ACES program or Horizon program at PS 24. We are looking at our neediest students first, and then we're looking at our littlest students first, such as pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade, to try and see what we can do there. Many of these programs will not open until January 4th, but we are working on it, and it is going to happen to some extent in most cases at every school.
Okay, so just a quick follow-up using your example of PS 29. There may be an ICT class or there may be a pre-K class there that is able to go 5 days, but it wouldn't necessarily be across the board or one class from every grade or anything like that. But
No, yes,
the priority would be the youngest and the neediest students.
yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, Tia, could you take it over with roll call for council member questions and comments?
Okay. Let's see. Antonia? Do you have a question?
I'm going to pass.
Okay. I'll save myself for the end. Bess Abrams?
No comments. Thank you.
Kimberly Scott?
No comments.
Katia Rembert?
No comments tonight, thank you.
Claudia? Is she's not here?
I'm
Mark?
here. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, great. You made it.
I did. Just had a question, Superintendent Skop, on the
Yes.
budget issues. I know you mentioned the staffing shortages that some schools have expressed, particularly with this new mandate for offering 5 days a week. Is there support, or one is there any update on the district support for covering budget shortfalls due to subs that are occurring district-wide, but also then is there additional support that could be provided for this, especially if a school shows a high need, and the possibility with both space to allow for 5 days a week for some of its neediest and youngest children?
So first of all, I really want to be clear about this. I truly wish I had a budget where I could provide support to all my schools. My budget for the entire year for my entire office is $18,000. So clearly it is not out of the district or for a lack of desire. What you're talking about is support at the central level. And this is a concern that we have raised repeatedly. Some of our schools have already gotten what they call SAM 56 funding for subs. And the Department of Education is in the process of looking at schools and seeing what they need. Some of our schools have gotten SAM 56 money. Some of our schools already had a budget for funding subs. So those schools do not initially get SAM 56 money. But many of our schools have gotten SAM 56 money already to pay for subs. Some subs we have been informed will be paid for at the central level. Now, whether that means that they're going to actually just front the salary or they're going to give them more SAM 56 money. We haven't been informed as yet, but that's how it works.
Claudia, does that conclude your questions?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just hearing that it's all unclear and it seems like in process. So hopefully there will be, I understand this is coming from Central, but it all sounds unresolved to some extent for some schools that haven't received seemingly their SAM 65 money.
Claudia, do you have a specific school in mind that I may have some information?
Well, one of the schools that my child attends, 516, and then also PS24, as I liaison with them, was a concern for them.
So 516 yesterday, because we were on the phone with the chief finance officer, and they want them to open 5 days a week for certain classes. So they were given 5 subs as of yesterday. And they are in the process of setting up classrooms and doing this, and it will go into effect for some kids next week, for some January 4th. So they have some money. They have what they call the SAM 56 money. I checked their budget. So it's okay for now. That doesn't mean forever, and we're going to keep on top of it.
Right. Was there an update for PS24 by chance then?
PS24 off the top of my head, I don't know, but SAM 516 I know because I was intimately involved with it.
Okay. Maybe I'll follow up with you just to make sure that they're also getting
absolutely
coverage. Great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, Mark.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Superintendent Skop. It was great to hear about the progress on the Wi-Fi, and particularly I'm super interested in understanding the specific timeline and pushing that along. It's great to know that's happening. Just a smaller issue, but I do think it kind of goes to the consistent theme around confusing policies. There apparently is a blizzard coming tomorrow, 15, 16 inches of snow, for some meteorologists are saying. And I think Carranza issued a note that said that school is not off for kids who go to school should then go to remote learning. Is that accurate? And is that, I guess, do you know anything about this kind of his note that he sent out today relative to that issue? And why wouldn't we, or can you just have a snow day?
I would love to have a snow day, but I don't have the power to declare a snow day. Actually and truthfully, they declare a snow day for the mayor through the chancellor. I think that I think they're preparing if there is an earlier start, or if there is a concern, or they would declare it earlier. But my guess is that Thursday may be the snow day. As opposed to tomorrow. It would be a remote day. It would be a remote day.
I guess. So all those kids who have parents that may not be used to being home on that day are supposed to go to remote on that day, even though they're not supposed to be at home that day. It should be just, so it's a snow day. They're supposed to be going to school on a day that's supposed to be a snow day, I guess.
Well, unfortunately, Mark, and I understand totally what you're saying, but even if this was sans pandemic, the way a snow day works is that schools are closed on that day, and you get up that morning and they tell you schools are closed. And I wish I could prepare for it better, but that's the way it's always been.
But usually on snow days, you don't go to school. And what things is that the kids have to log in and go to school on a snow day. And given everyone's personal situations at home, given that we're all like on at the end of our wit, why would we have kids who are used to be going to school on the day, if we have a snow day, have to make them log in on that day to go to remote school on that day, particularly when you're going to have thousands and thousands of strange situations at home? Why don't we just keep it simple, keep the policy simple, straightforward? And can you give the feedback to Central that?
Absolutely. Without question, I'm happy to share your feedback. And like you, I'm sure there will be some provision. What I usually tell my principals in any situation is if, and yes, it is a question of just logging in, but if the student has contact with the school in some shape or form, that's attendance, you're there, we're done. So if they have situations where they want to go out and play in the snow, or their mommy and they have to watch their sibling or something, I understand that, and nobody is going to penalize a child who on a snow day is having a problem with remote learning. So please don't worry. We would not let that happen.
Yeah, I think we just have Yvonne left.
Okay. I guess I just wanted to follow up with that Wi-Fi question. I think I'm the third person or fourth person in this meeting to ask about it. I know that that you have a lot of people in this community who are very concerned about this. And I mean, the last I had read was that the Wi-Fi infrastructure was not going to be in place until next year. Is there an update on that?
Are you talking about at this homeless shelter?
Shelters, yeah.
Okay. So there are, the city is working right now on 27 shelters. I don't know which ones they are. What I do know is that the devices that are being given to students in homeless shelters do have Wi-Fi. They are equipped. That's the whole point. They ordered these devices that come equipped with Wi-Fi so the parents would not have to supply Wi-Fi. What I'm being very transparent about is that in some few cases, what we have seen, and it's very rare, but it does happen occasionally, is that the structure of the shelter itself, and it's not the newer ones, it's the older ones, I think, have impacted the ability of the Wi-Fi to work consistently. So those are situations where the department that is dealing with that, the students in temporary housing, if the schools themselves find out about it, like you said, you have gotten hotspots for people, but we also have worked with the borough office to make sure that the kids are getting what they need so that they can log in. Many of our homeless shelter kids are coming to school, especially I'm noticing the kids who live in the shelter near PS 124, the families are sending them because it's convenient, it's easy. In many other places, they're being bused. I have to give kudos to PS15, which has homeless shelter kids that are bused. And we are working to ensure that all of our kids have what they need, whether they're in school or they're not in school.
Tia?
I'm muted. Yeah, I know the DOE iPad internet connections, there've been problems with that. But thank you for that update. Speaking of 124, though, we heard at our last meeting from our liaison report that 124 is wondering when there will be a rezoning around there, because it it does appear that there is now a concentration of children from temporary housing at PS 124, and obviously we don't want a concentration of any demographic at any of our schools in the district.
So this has been raised with the Department of Enrollment, and we're looking into it.
Thank you. Yvonne, do you have a question?
No comments tonight. Thank you.
Okay, and Crystal is still not here.
Okay. I'm handing off to,
I'll take it from here.
okay.
So now we're going to move on to the Office of District Planning and our rezoning update. Max, are you here?
Yeah, hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think it's actually, we're gonna kick it over to Nita to take the lead on this
okay.
piece.
I promised that I would save the PAR part for the PAR part, so I wanted to talk, and they were gracious enough to let me. So since the spring of 2019, we have been thinking about rezoning in Subdistrict 3 through a very unique lens. We have been working closely with the community, and we have been looking at through the lens of integration, which for District 15 is part of our ethos. It is part of what we value. Tia said it beautifully. She said, we don't want any one demographic at any one school. We would love to have integrated schools. And so we're looking at elementary school rezoning by increasing integration. And we got the opportunity to do this in Subdistrict 3 because we were given an addition onto PS 32, which is in the Gowanus area. And we have a lovely new addition there. And so that led us to begin a rezoning conversation. And the more deeply we dug into the conversation, the more it became clear that we wanted to go even deeper. And the schools, PS 15, PS 676, PS 29, PS 32, PS 38, PS 58, and PS 261 were integral in talking to us about their needs, their concerns. And so we decided to look for even more community feedback. And in many of the meetings that we had, we wanted to ensure that every voice in the community had the opportunity to be heard, especially those voices that often feel disenfranchised and feel that they have no place in the conversation. And so in order to do that, we began to work with a very deep engagement process called PAR, Participatory Action Research. And I apologize for being redundant, but we've talked about this, but I want to make sure everybody is very clear on this. Participatory Action Research, which we funded through our state grant, enables us to work with a CUNY partner, in this case, Brooklyn College. And what they do is they pull together a group of community members who then are trained, given a small stipend, and go out in the community and talk to their neighbors. And this enables people to be comfortable and feel that their opinions can be freely given. And this was a very, very, very successful process. COVID had an impact, and so it was somewhat delayed initially, but they did work over the summer and they continued to do so. And they also created a survey that has over 800 responses. And this is enabling us to get a real sense of what the communities wanted. And you can learn more about this. There's a website. It says district15parproject.org. We can put it in the chat. Thank you, Maddie. This is really, really important work. They presented their findings at the last calendar CEC session on November 17th. And they're back tonight to talk some more. So we are excited in that we want to share with you, because people have been saying, what's the timeline? What's the timeline? And we are excited to share with you now that the K admissions process has begun, that we are going to share the timeline, and I'm going to kick it over to Nancy, who will share the timeline.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nancy Randall, and I'm a PAR team member. There's several other PAR team members here tonight. As many of you were here on November 17th, we shared our process, our initial findings, and our initial recommendations. And those are posted on our website. The link to the website is in the chat, so you can look into the website. As Anita mentioned, over the summer and fall, we heard from hundreds of community members about their experiences with schooling and their hopes in relation to a potential rezoning. Meanwhile, many community members raised questions about the pandemic and especially about how the pandemic might impact the implementation of rezoning. From our work, we saw that issues of inequity are more urgent now than ever before. We know that as we continue to move through and then, knock on wood, recover from the pandemic, we will need to work even harder than before to address issues of educational inequity. So out of a desire to set any rezoning plans up for success, and with time for community education, and out of respect for the extraordinary pandemic conditions that we are all living under, the PAR team has communicated to the DOE that we recommend a rezoning vote will take place this winter or spring, but the implementation would be for fall 2022. So that is our timeline recommendation. And now I will pass it over to Anita and Max for them to explain in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. I feel like I'm on the news. Given the feedback and discussions with the CEC members and the community, we realize the enormous impact that COVID has had on so many people's lives and the stress level that people are under. And also, rather than rush a process that we have put so much time and energy and, to be honest, love into, we wanted to ensure that we gave it the credence that it deserved. And so there will be a vote, as Nancy said, in either winter or early spring on their recommendations, which we will be hearing. And the implementation will be for 22-23. So what that means is that the kindergarten process for this right now is unaffected by rezoning. And next year's kindergarten process is the one that will be part of the new rezoning. We are very actively considering the PAR team's findings. We're very excited about them. They are really inspiring, and they are looking to develop some really comprehensive plans. As we go forward, we're going to share next steps in the following weeks. And one of the ideas that is coming up from the community is the idea of turning 676 into a middle school. And so that is something that we will be looking into as well. And so having said all of that, I am happy to turn this over to Maddie and to Max for any questions and comments.
Hi, everyone. This is Max. And yeah, I think that, thank you, Anita. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, the PAR team and everyone. That was the main information I think we were hoping to share this evening. So we're happy to take questions and any comments or feedback from the public and or the CEC.
Great, thank you, Max. We're going to take public comments first for 10 minutes. And I'm looking for hands raised in using the hand raise feature. And I will call on you, or if you were calling in, again, you press *9. And I'll call on you by the last 4 of your phone number. So we're having public comment for the PAR team right now. Again, I'll do another call. We're having public comments and questions for the PAR team. Please use the raise hand feature. Or *9 if you're calling it. All right, Tia, I'll turn it over to you to do a roll call for the council members' questions and comments.
Okay. Oh, it looks like we do have someone in the chat. They couldn't raise their hand. Ben Hughes.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi. I was just had a question. And when will we be seeing a map? If there's a vote that's going to be scheduled for the winter or spring, when will a map for voting purposes be presented? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. And I know that's a question that many people have asked. And at this stage, we don't have the specific timeline details on when a map would be shown. As Superintendent Skop pointed out, we are working to explore and investigate this idea for the 676 middle school transformation, which would certainly impact rezoning. And so as we work on that, and as we continue to think deeply about the PAR team's recommendations, we should develop a better sense of when a potential map could be shown, and our intention and goal is to be able to provide some clarity on that timeline in the coming weeks.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question? You can say so in the chat if you also couldn't raise your hand. All right. I don't see anyone. So Antonia, did you have a question or comment?
I do not. I'm going to pass.
Okay. I'm gonna pass. Bess Abrams.
No questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Kimberly.
No questions now. Thank you.
Katia.
No questions. Thank you.
Claudia.
No questions. Thank you.
Mark.
No questions. Thanks for the presentation.
Iban.
No questions. Thank you for the presentation as well.
Okay, and Crystal's not here. Okay, so Antonia, are you up next?
Okay, yes. So thank you so much, Anita and Max and Maddie. We are now going to move on to the resolution on translation and interpretation. Tia, do you want to lead this conversation since this is your resolution?
Sure. So and I'm gonna share screen. We brought this up last time. We started out noticing that we did not have interpretation for our business meetings, and because we are actively seeking an multi-language learner parent to sit on our council very urgently. We decided that not having interpretation was a big hindrance to that, since probably multi-language learner families assume that their concerns are not important to us, since we are not providing a way for them to participate in our business meetings. And so we decided to write a resolution, but then we also decided that we wanted to say something about interpretation and translation in general in the city. And so I wrote a resolution that did say something very generally and then only gave 2 examples, which Kimberly then very usefully pointed out was probably not enough examples. So we have been working on, so Camille and Antonia have contributed some more examples to our resolution. And I'll just say what they are right now, but the resolution probably isn't ready to be voted upon. And I would just ask all of the participants, community members who are here tonight to please email us at our CEC email. It's in the chat, and let us know if you are noticing any translation or interpretation lapses at your school. In the past, parents have actually sued the city to have interpretation cities for IEP meetings, which was outrageously lacking. Also, there's been concerns about translation for parent-teacher conferences. So, but apparently that's not, all I know is that that's not that much of an issue in Sunset Park, but I don't know about the other other areas in our district. So I would like to have some information about that. But we did note that there are various sections on the DOE website that are only available in English. For example, the CEC member application. So again, difficult for us to fill our multi-language learner seat, open seat. There are various sections of the chancellor's regulations that are not translated, that are only in English. And the city notifications about COVID in schools, COVID cases in schools is only in English. The notification of school closures in November were only announced in English until the next day. They were translated the day afterwards. So we have a lot of examples, but we would like to have a more fleshed out resolution before we put it up to a vote. So that is our update on our translation and interpretation resolution. And so is public comment. So I'll open it up for public comment. I would love to hear if anyone has anything to contribute to our resolution. You can raise your hand or type in the chat. And again, you can email us if you don't get to it tonight. I'm looking, I'm not seeing any. Okay, so please email us about this. And CEC members and member questions and answers. So let me get back to the Antonia, do you have anything to?
Sure. So one of the things I added came out of the Know Your Rights forum that we hosted, that many families need 2 devices to fully participate in our meetings, which just seems like a tremendous inequity. So they are on Zoom on one device, and then they have to call in to the translation service on a separate device. And then if they don't have 2 devices, then they lose the presentation on Zoom, and they're just listening to the translator, and they can't see any of the PowerPoint presentations or anything. And so one of the things we're asking for in this resolution is some sort of training for CEC members and AAs on PowerPoint or some sort of software where we can provide closed captioning that runs along the bottom of the Zoom screen. Obviously, that would only cover one language, and some group would get the benefit of that, and then some group would still have to call into the translation services. But we could alternate between languages. It's just more access is better. So I just wanted to.
Thank you. I was like trying to, the document's still a little bit of a mess. Yes. Oh, okay. So our next person, Katia, did you have anything?
No comment right now. Thank you.
Bess?
No comments. Thank you.
Kimberly?
No comment.
Claudia?
No comment. I've seen the document sort of shared some overall examples. I think it's just important for us to continue highlighting this and just keep on advocating for resources for accessibility to make sure that families are well communicated with, and the schools and us have the proper resources to be as inclusive as possible.
Mark?
Well said, Claudia. I have no further comments to add.
Yvonne?
Just a short comment, just following Claudia, that when we got the meeting that Antonia was referring to, there was a little malfunction with the translator in Chinese, and we added an extra session so we could provide that information that our Chinese families couldn't get on the initial date. So this is just to show how important it is, and how when we offer the services, then we have the parents attending our meetings, and this is something that we want to do for all the students and families in our district. Thank you.
Okay, is that the end of our agenda?
Well, actually, we have under new
Can I-
business.
I'm sorry, this is Kimberly. I just want to make one comment along those lines. And it reminded me of that meeting that we had to have too, we had a glitch, or there was a technical difficulty in the translation. So, it's not only a matter of providing the services, but we have to make sure that they're working as we expect them to. So, I think we should add something to it that, a quick turnaround if there's a problem, or, I don't know how to phrase that in a resolution, but, simply saying that we have translation services are available in all languages for all meetings. That's all well and good, except that, as we experienced in that one meeting, they didn't work. And the translators are having a problem getting onto their line, and others couldn't hear them. They were on the wrong line. So I don't know how to craft that in a resolution, but I think it's really important to just say, we have to have the services available in a working state.
Oh, I remember. Oh, there's also one thing now that I'm looking at the document. The tech support page on the DOE website is only in English, and I do know that getting help with devices is a big issue in Sunset Park. All right, so Antonia.
Thank you. That's really crazy. The tech support page is only in English. Good work. Continue with it because it's important, and we thank you for doing it. So we've hit new business, and I got a little message from Laura Lai, who works for Brad Lander's office. And Laura, can you come on and talk a little bit about the update from the OMB on the Comptroller's Directive 10 regarding bringing home devices and the funding for devices that students bring home? Are you there still? Can somebody unmute Laura?
Hello.
Hey, Laura.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Are you okay to give us a little update on what you wrote in the chat?
Sure. Antonia knows that a concern of ours, because Brad and all city council members disperse technology grants every year to schools out of their Rezo money, was that a lot of schools might be requesting things like Chromebooks to use for their students next year, so that they don't have to rely on iPads. And for whatever reason, a lot of them sent out Chromebooks that might not come back, or at least might not come back in workable condition. And it's always been a rule of the comptrollers that technology has to stay within the building in which it's housed. And this has been an issue in the past about using capital funds to buy things like laptops. As many of you know from your own children, they sit in a cart in the school, and that's where they generally stay. So we were a little concerned going forward, given the remote learning needs and how it seems like there's going to be a component of remote learning that probably stays with us even beyond the pandemic, that this was going to prohibit schools from being able to access capital funds because they're not allowed to really distribute these devices. But I found out today that they are working, the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, is working on an amendment to the directive to allow devices that were bought with capital funds to be distributed to students. So it hasn't happened yet, but we're optimistic that going forward, that's going to be written in stone. I think this past year, they just sort of turned the other way when schools started giving out their Chromebooks, which is fine, but we need it to be sort of put in writing for the future, and we're hopeful that that may be the case.
Thank you so much. That's really great. Do you know when? Does that have to be voted on by the city council, or is it just?
No, this is just the OMB. This has nothing to do with the city council. The person I spoke to at Council Finance is going to bring it up at their next meeting with OMB. So this is central staff, and so I'm hopeful maybe after the holidays I might have an update that I can provide the CEC with.
Great, thank you. We look forward to that. That's good news.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much. Okay, guys, so it looks like we have reached the end of the meeting. Does anybody else have any new business? Well, then I will wish you a happy Hanukkah, a happy winter solstice, a Merry Christmas, a happy Kwanzaa, and a joyous 2021. And does anybody want to propose that we adjourn?
I'll make the proposal to adjourn. It's Bess.
Okay.
I'll
I
second it.
second.
Okay, who was that? Kimberly?
Tia
Tia.
at 7:51.
7:51. Okay. Wow, that's early.
Very early.
Happy holidays to everybody.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays, everyone.
Yeah, happy
Everybody,
holidays.
be safe, be well.
All right.
Be well. Thank you.
Good night.